Hey there, deep divers. Ever feel caught between just going with the flow and really sticking to your guns?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That inner tug of war
Hmm.
between just accepting things as they are
Right.
and fighting for what you believe in.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into that very question,
Okay.
surrender versus integrity,
Interesting.
with an article from The Spiritual Seek
Okay.
titled,
Yeah.
Surrender to the World or Keep Fighting to Maintain One's Integrity.
It's an age-old dilemma, isn't it?
It is.
And this article doesn't shy away from exploring both sides.
Right.
The potential benefits and drawbacks of surrendering to the world as it is,
Yeah.
as well as the rewards and challenges of holding on to our integrity.
Right off the bat, the article dives into defining surrender in this context.
Okay.
And it's not about giving up entirely. It's
Right.
more about
Yeah.
accepting what is
Right.
going with the flow
Right.
and adapting to fit in.
What's fascinating is that this resonates with various spiritual and philosophical traditions, where non-resistance is seen as a path to inner peace.
Okay.
It's not about being passive, it's more about skillful adaptation,
Interesting.
like a willow bending with the wind instead of breaking against it.
The article highlights some tempting benefits of surrender,
Okay.
less stress, smoother relationships,
Right?
and even getting things done more easily by working within the system.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty appealing in our fast-paced, often chaotic world.
There's definitely a sense of ease that can come from choosing our battles and not fighting every single fight.
Yeah.
But, and this is where the article throws in a curveball, surrendering too easily can come with a hidden cost.
Yeah, the article doesn't sugarcoat it.
Right.
It warns that constantly compromising could chip away at your values and sense of self. You might end up going along with things you wouldn't normally accept, just to avoid rocking the boat. It's like dimming your own light to fit in with a dimmer room.
The article doesn't paint surrender as inherently negative, though.
Right.
Instead, it prompts us to consider the potential pitfalls and make conscious choices about when and how to surrender.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that sometimes choosing the path of least resistance might lead us further away from who we truly are.
That's a great point.
Right.
It's not about judging ourselves for past choices.
Exactly.
But learning from them.
Yeah.
Think back to a time when you went along with something even though it didn't feel quite right. How did that impact you? Did it make you question your own values or boundaries?
Exactly.
Recognizing those moments is key to developing that self-awareness the article emphasizes.
Yeah.
Now, let's turn our attention to the other side of the coin, integrity.
Yeah.
The article defines it as staying true to your moral code, being honest and consistent, even when it's hard. It's about aligning your actions with your beliefs,
Right.
even if it means standing alone. It's like that saying,
Yeah.
the time is always right to do what is right.
I like that.
But as inspiring as that sounds,
Yeah.
the article acknowledges that living with integrity can be challenging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly rewarding,
Yeah.
but also lead to conflict,
Yeah.
isolation,
Right.
and even real-world consequences.
Right.
The article doesn't shy away from that reality.
Yeah.
Think of those whistleblowers who risk their careers to expose wrongdoing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It takes immense courage to stand by your
Right.
principles, especially when the stakes are high.
But even in everyday situations, integrity can come with a price tag.
Yeah.
Like when you have to say no to a project that compromises your values or speak up against something you believe is wrong, even if it ruffles feathers.
Yeah,
It can be uncomfortable,
for sure.
even scary.
Yet there's something deeply admirable about those who hold their ground, isn't there?
Absolutely.
The article points out that acting with integrity builds self-respect. It's like you're telling yourself,
Yeah.
I value my principles enough to stand by them, even when it's hard.
And that kind of inner strength can be contagious, right?
Yeah.
Like when you see someone stand up for what they believe in, it can give you the courage to do the same.
Right.
Think about historical figures who stood against injustice.
Absolutely.
Their integrity sparked movements and changed the world.
Their unwavering commitment to their values created a ripple effect,
Right.
inspiring others to find their own voices and fight for what they believe in.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even small acts of integrity can have a far-reaching impact.
And even if those acts don't lead to immediate change,
Right.
the article highlights that living with integrity often leads to deep satisfaction down the line.
Yeah.
It's about that feeling of peace you get from knowing you're living in alignment with your truth.
Exactly.
So we have these two seemingly opposing forces. Surrender, which is about adapting and going with the flow, and integrity, which is about holding firm to your beliefs.
Right.
So where do we go from here?
That's the question.
How do we reconcile these two seemingly opposite approaches to life?
Right.
The article suggests that it's not about choosing one or the other permanently.
It's not black and white.
It's not. So it's not about living in a constant state of surrender
or
being unyielding in our pursuit of integrity.
Right.
The real key is finding a dynamic balance between the two.
Absolutely.
Wait, dynamic balance.
Okay.
What does that even look like in real life?
That's where the article gets really interesting.
Okay.
It suggests that finding this balance hinges on self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
It's about knowing our values,
Okay.
understanding our tendencies, and recognizing the context of each situation.
So it's not a rigid formula.
Right.
It's about being adaptable and discerning in the moment.
Precisely.
Okay.
The article emphasizes that it's about recognizing when it's beneficial to adapt and when it's crucial to stand firm. It's like knowing when to hold onto the reins and when to loosen your grip, depending on the terrain you're navigating.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to those times when I wish I had spoken up, and other times when I'm grateful I just let things go.
Right.
It seems like finding that sweet spot is the key.
You hit the nail on the head.
So there's no single right answer.
Exactly.
What matters is finding what works best for you in each unique situation.
Right.
Okay, so far we've explored the potential benefits and drawbacks of both surrender and fighting for our integrity.
We have.
We've also talked about the importance of self-awareness and the need to be adaptable to different situations.
Right.
And the article doesn't stop there.
It keeps going.
It offers practical advice on how to approach those tough decisions, those gray areas where it's not always clear what the right choice is.
I know what you mean.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Okay.
What does the article suggest we do?
Well, it starts by highlighting the importance of choosing your battles wisely.
Okay.
It suggests asking ourselves a few key questions when faced with the decision.
Ooh, I love a good set of guiding questions.
Me too.
What are they?
The first one is this something I can compromise on without betraying my core values?
Interesting.
Sometimes a little flexibility can go a long way in maintaining harmony.
Right.
But we need to ensure it doesn't come at the expense of our integrity.
Right, because it's not always about winning or losing.
Exactly.
But finding solutions that respect both our values and the needs of the situation.
That's it.
What's the next question we should be asking ourselves?
The next one is, what are the potential consequences of taking a stand?
Oh, okay.
And this goes both ways.
Right.
What are the potential costs of speaking up? And what are the potential costs of staying silent?
That's a really crucial point.
It is.
Sometimes staying silent can have a bigger impact. Especially when we see something wrong happening and choose not to say anything.
Right.
It's like we become complicit in the situation.
Exactly.
It's about weighing those potential costs and making a conscious decision based on what aligns with our values and our understanding of the situation.
Yeah.
And the final question the article prompts us to ask is there a way I can maintain my integrity while still engaging constructively with the situation?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is.
So it's not about digging our heels in and refusing to budge.
Right.
But about finding creative solutions that allow us to stay true to ourselves while navigating the complexities of real-life situations.
It's about being thoughtful and intentional.
Yes.
Rather than reacting impulsively or out of fear.
Right.
It's about recognizing that upholding our integrity doesn't always have to mean creating conflict or division.
Exactly.
This is all starting to come together.
Yeah.
It sounds like finding that balance between surrender and integrity is a constant dance. A back and forth between adapting to the world around us and holding on to what's most important to us.
You nailed it.
And it's a dance we'll likely be doing for our entire lives.
Probably.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's about constantly learning, growing, and refining our approach as we encounter new challenges.
Absolutely.
I'm really enjoying this deep dive.
Good.
Giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Both in terms of my own experiences and how I approach life in general.
Right.
But you know what's really got me curious now?
What's that?
The article ends with a thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Almost like a little quiz. It asks,
Yeah.
is this your first incarnation on Earth?
Oh, yes, I remember that.
It's such a simple question, yet it really gets under your skin, doesn't it?
It does.
It goes on to list several statements
Mhm.
and asks you to choose the ones that resonate with you.
Okay.
Things like,
Yeah.
I feel limited by the body and all its needs, or I often wonder why I came into this world.
It's almost like a playful way to tap into how deeply we feel connected to this world.
Yeah.
Do we feel like we truly belong here?
Right.
Or are we more like visitors passing through,
Interesting.
observing everything with a sense of wonder and detachment?
I love that.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, some of those statements really resonated with me.
Okay.
I've definitely had moments where I felt like I didn't quite belong.
Yeah.
Like I was watching the world unfold from a distance.
It's a sentiment that's been echoed by many philosophers and spiritual seekers throughout history.
Yeah.
That feeling of being both a part of the world and somehow separate from it.
Right.
A participant and an observer all at once.
And the article suggests that how we answer those questions might actually influence how we approach the whole surrender versus integrity dilemma.
That's a fascinating observation.
It is.
It makes me wonder if those who feel deeply connected to this world, who feel at home here, might lean more towards surrender, while those who feel more like visitors might be more drawn to upholding their integrity.
Interesting.
Even at a cost.
It's definitely something to ponder.
It is.
But we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to unpack in this article, and I'm excited to keep exploring these ideas with you.
Me too.
This is one of those deep dives that really makes you think about the big questions.
It is.
And I have a feeling we'll be revisiting these concepts long after we finish this conversation.
Absolutely.
But before we move on to part 2,
Okay.
we want to hear from you, our amazing listeners.
Yes.
What resonates with you most from what we've discussed so far?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Have you had any experiences where you wrestled with this surrender versus integrity dilemma? What insights did you gain?
Right.
Share your thoughts, stories, and questions with us on our website or social media. We'd love to hear from you.
We'd love to hear from you. Welcome back, Deep Divers.
I'm still thinking about that first incarnation quiz from the article. It really makes you question how we're supposed to fit in, doesn't it?
It does.
Like maybe some of us are meant to be a little out of sync with the world.
It does. And if that's true, it reframes the whole surrender versus integrity debate.
Right.
Maybe for some, holding on to their unique perspective and truth, even if it means standing apart, is their way of contributing something valuable.
That's a really interesting thought.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing nonconformity as a bad thing,
Right.
maybe it's actually a strength, a different way of being in the world that brings something new to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about all the artists, innovators, and activists who challenged the status quo and changed the course of history.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't fit in,
Right.
but they made a profound impact.
It's like they were dancing to a different beat and ended up creating a whole new genre of music.
Yeah,
That's pretty inspiring.
it is.
So maybe the goal isn't to blend in seamlessly,
Right.
but to find a balance between honoring who we are and connecting with the world in a way that feels authentic.
That's beautifully put. It's not about erasing our individuality,
Right.
but finding ways to express it in a way that contributes to the bigger picture.
This makes me think about choosing your battles, which we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
If we're more aware of what truly matters to us,
Yeah.
what aligns with our values and purpose,
Right.
it might be easier to decide when to compromise and when to stand firm.
Absolutely. When we're clear on our own internal compass,
Okay.
we're less likely to get swayed by external pressures or feel the need to conform just to fit in.
I think a lot of people struggle with this idea of fitting in.
Yeah.
It's a deep-seated social instinct,
It is.
especially when we're growing up.
Right.
We want to be accepted and belong.
It's a fundamental human need.
Yeah.
But as the article highlights,
Okay.
the challenge is to find that sweet spot between belonging and retaining our sense of self.
Right.
It's not an either-or situation.
It's not.
It's about embracing both.
I love that both hand. It's not about rejecting connection or individuality.
Right.
It's about finding a way to honor and embrace both.
And that's where it gets really interesting,
Okay.
because it requires us to be comfortable with ambiguity.
Right.
There isn't always a clear-cut answer when navigating this dilemma.
Life is messy, right?
It is.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the beauty of it.
Mm.
It's this constant dance between surrender and integrity,
Right.
adapting, staying true to ourselves,
Wow.
finding those moments of connection while also honoring our own unique path.
And it's important to remember that this isn't a solo dance.
Oh, okay.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to live in a way that feels meaningful and fulfilling.
Right?
We stumble, we learn, and we hopefully become more graceful with each step we take.
I like that we're all in this dance together.
We are.
So let's talk about the practical side of things.
Okay.
What are some tangible ways we can cultivate that balance between surrender and integrity in our daily lives?
While the article doesn't give a step-by-step guide,
Okay.
it does hint at some strategies for navigating those tricky situations where we feel pulled in opposite directions.
Give us the goods.
Right.
What are some of those strategies?
One that stands out is being mindful of our reactions
Okay.
when faced with something that challenges our values
Right.
or pushes us out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's easy to react impulsively, either with resistance or compliance.
I know that feeling all too well.
I bet.
I'm someone who can get pretty fired up about things, and sometimes I react before I've even had a chance to think things through.
That's where mindfulness comes in.
Mindfulness.
The article suggests that taking a moment to pause,
Okay.
breathe,
Right.
and observe our thoughts and feelings before acting can make a world of difference.
So it's about creating a space between the stimulus and our response.
Yeah.
Giving ourselves a chance to choose how we want to engage with the situation.
Exactly.
Rather than just reacting on autopilot.
Exactly.
That pause,
Right.
that moment of mindfulness,
Yes.
allows us to tap into our inner wisdom, our values, and our sense of what's truly important.
Yes.
I'm picking up on a theme here.
Oh, yeah.
Self-awareness seems to be key.
It is the key.
The more we understand ourselves,
Right.
our values, triggers, tendencies, the better equipped we are to navigate those tricky situations where surrender and integrity are at play.
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
Self-awareness is the bedrock of a conscious and intentional life.
It is.
It's like having a map and compass when navigating unfamiliar terrain.
Mindfulness and self-awareness.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
What other strategies does the article suggest?
Another one that resonates with me is seeking out diverse perspectives.
Oh.
When we're stuck in our own echo chamber,
Right.
it's easy to get caught up in a limited worldview.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
We can start to think our way is the only way, and that can lead to all sorts of problems.
Precisely. The article encourages us to actively seek out perspectives that challenge our own,
Okay.
engaging conversations with people who think differently, and be open to learning something new.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so easy to surround ourselves with people who agree with us,
Right.
but that can lead to stagnation.
I can't.
We need to be challenged
Yes.
to have our assumptions questioned,
Right.
to truly grow.
And that growth,
Yeah.
that willingness to expand our understanding
Right.
is essential for finding that balance between surrender and integrity.
Yeah.
The more we understand the world's complexities and the diversity of human experience,
Right.
the better equipped we are to navigate those situations with no easy answers.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does.
The world is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And what might have felt like the right choice in one situation
Yeah.
may not be right in another.
Absolutely.
So we have to be adaptable
We do.
and willing to adjust our approach. The article suggests we approach life with a sense of curiosity and experimentation, rather than clinging rigidly to a set of rules or beliefs.
So it's about being open to learning,
Yeah.
evolving,
Uh-huh.
and embracing the messiness of life.
Precisely.
I think that's a really liberating perspective.
It is.
It takes the pressure off of needing to have all the answers
Right.
and allows us to approach life with a sense of playfulness and exploration.
Okay. Mindfulness, self-awareness, seeking diverse perspectives, being adaptable.
Okay.
What other nuggets of wisdom did the article offer?
One that really resonated with me is focusing on our sphere of influence.
Okay.
It's easy to get overwhelmed by the world's problems
Oh, yeah.
and feel like our actions don't matter.
Oh, tell me about it.
All right.
It's easy to get bogged down in negativity and feel powerless to make a difference.
But the article reminds us that we each have a unique sphere of influence.
Oh,
Our relationships,
wow.
our communities,
Yeah.
our workplaces,
Right.
where we can make a positive impact.
So it's about focusing on what we can control,
Exactly.
the small actions we can take
Yes.
to create positive change in our own corner of the world.
Exactly.
And those small actions can have a ripple effect,
They can.
inspiring others and creating a wave of positive change that extends far beyond our immediate reach.
I love that.
I love that too.
Yeah.
We don't have to solve all the world's problems,
We don't.
but we can each do our part to make things a little bit better.
It's a hopeful and empowering message,
It is.
especially when it feels like the world is falling apart.
Okay, we've got mindfulness, self-awareness, seeking diverse perspectives, being adaptable, and focusing on our sphere of influence.
Okay.
What else can we do to cultivate that balance between surrender and integrity in our everyday lives?
The article doesn't explicitly state this,
Okay.
but I think it's implied
Okay.
the importance of self-care.
Ah, self-care.
Yes.
It's so easy to neglect when we're busy trying to save the world or just trying to survive the day.
Right.
But I see how it's essential for this whole surrender versus integrity dance.
Absolutely. When we're
Right.
depleted, stressed,
Yeah.
or burnt out,
Right.
it's hard to make conscious choices and access that inner wisdom that guides us toward balance.
So taking care of ourselves,
Yes.
physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, gives us the strength and resilience we need to show up in the world as our best selves,
Right.
both in surrender and integrity.
Exactly.
It's like putting on our own oxygen mask first before helping others.
I love that analogy.
Me too.
Yeah.
Taking care of ourselves is an act of service to ourselves and the world around us.
It is.
It's an ongoing process, not
Right.
a one-time fix.
Uh-huh.
It requires us to be intentional about our time and energy, make choices that nourish and support us,
Yeah.
and create boundaries that protect our well-being.
I agree.
This feels very holistic.
It does.
It's like all these aspects of our lives are interconnected. The way we take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
engage with the world,
Right.
make decisions.
Right.
It's all part of this dance between surrender and integrity.
You said it.
It's a lifelong journey of learning, growing, and constantly seeking that delicate balance between adapting to the world as it is and staying true to the deepest part of ourselves.
And we're all on that journey together.
We've covered a lot in this part.
We have.
The power of nonconformity,
Mhm.
the importance of belonging and individuality,
Yes.
mindfulness,
Uh-huh.
self-awareness,
Yes.
diverse perspectives, focusing on our sphere of influence and self-care.
And yet, it feels like we're just scratching the surface of this topic.
Right.
There's so much more to explore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But before we jump into part 3,
Okay.
we want to hear from you, our incredible listeners.
Yes, we do.
What are your thoughts on this surrender versus integrity dilemma?
What are your thoughts?
What strategies have you found helpful in navigating those situations where you're pulled in different directions?
It's exactly.
Share your insights, experiences, and questions with us on our website or social media. We'd love to hear from you.
We would.
Welcome back, deep divers. We're wrapping up our deep dive into surrender versus integrity.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've unearthed some real gems from the spiritual seek.
It's been quite the journey, hasn't it?
It has.
From questioning how we're supposed to fit in
Yeah.
to exploring practical strategies for those tricky situations.
Right.
We've covered so much ground.
We have. And I'm walking away with a sense of hope and empowerment. Oh, that's great. Because even though life is messy and unpredictable,
Right.
we have the power to choose how we respond to the challenges we face.
That's a powerful realization.
It is.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of balance between surrender and integrity,
Right.
but embracing the process of learning, growing, and adapting as we go.
Exactly. That takes the pressure off having to be perfect
It does.
and allows us to approach life with a sense of curiosity and playfulness. Speaking of which, I want to circle back to nonconformity as a strength. That's
Okay.
something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
And I think it's crucial, especially in a world that often pressures us to fit in.
It's so easy to get caught up in the idea that we need to conform to be accepted,
Right.
successful, or loved.
Yeah.
But what if our differences, our unique perspectives,
Yeah.
are what make us truly valuable?
That's the question the article really pushes us to consider.
Yeah.
It challenges the idea that fitting in is always the answer
Right.
and suggests that it might actually stifle creativity, authenticity,
Yeah.
and our ability to make a real difference.
It makes you think of all the times you've tried to shrink yourself,
Oh, totally.
make yourself smaller,
Yeah.
to avoid standing out or rocking the boat.
Oh, totally. And it never really worked.
Right.
It just made me feel more disconnected from myself and those around me.
That's such a common experience.
It is.
We're taught from a young age to follow the rules,
Yeah.
blend in, not make waves. But what if those waves, those disruptions, are exactly what the world needs?
What if those wares are the things that push us forward?
Yes.
That spark innovation and change?
Exactly.
It's like we're all part of a giant tapestry, and the unique threads we each bring are what make the whole thing beautiful and interesting.
And those threads can be so many things.
Right.
A new idea, a work of art, an act of courage, or even just a willingness to be authentically yourself, even when it feels different.
It's not about being loud or obnoxious.
No.
It's about having the courage to be yourself, even if you stand out.
Yes.
Like that friend we all have who marches to the beat of their own drum, and they inspire us to do the same.
They remind us that it's okay to be different, to think outside the box, and to carve our own path.
It's a hopeful message for anyone who has ever felt like they don't belong or need to change to be accepted.
Absolutely.
The article reminds us that our differences are our strengths, and that the world needs our unique perspectives, even if they're messy, unconventional, or a little bit out there.
I love that.
Okay, we've talked about the power of nonconformity and embracing authenticity.
We have.
But how do we reconcile that with surrender? Sometimes it feels like we need to adapt, compromise, go with the flow to get things done, or maintain harmony in our relationships.
That's a great question.
It is.
And I think it gets to the heart of this whole surrender versus integrity dilemma.
Right.
It's not about picking one or the other all the time.
Right.
But finding that dynamic balance.
Right. It's a dance.
Yeah.
A back and forth between adapting to the world and staying true to ourselves.
Exactly.
And a key part of that dance is being mindful of our intentions.
Our intentions.
When we surrender, are we doing it from a place of fear, obligation, or desire to please others?
Right.
Or are we doing it from a place of wisdom, compassion, and a willingness to let go of what we can't control?
That's an important distinction.
It is.
Sometimes surrender can be an act of self-preservation.
Right.
A way to protect ourselves from unnecessary conflict.
Right.
And other times, it can be an act of love.
Yeah.
A way to create space for understanding, connection, and growth.
You're absolutely right. And I think the same goes for integrity. Are we holding on to our principles out of rigidity, judgment, or the need to be right? Or are we doing it from a place of love, compassion, and a desire to live in alignment with our values?
It's about checking in with ourselves.
This is making me think about those times when I dug my heels in. Not because it was important, but because I didn't want to be wrong.
Right.
It's humbling to realize that. It shows how nuanced this whole conversation is.
It does.
It's about constantly checking in with ourselves and asking, what's my intention here? What's motivating my choices?
That's where the practices we discussed earlier come in.
Right.
Mindfulness, self-awareness, diverse perspectives, and self-care.
Yeah.
The more we cultivate these, the more clarity we have about our intentions.
Right.
And the better equipped we are to make choices that align with our values and our highest good.
It's like we're building a muscle.
Yes.
A muscle of discernment that helps us navigate life's complexities with more grace, wisdom, and compassion.
Beautifully said.
This feels very empowering.
It is.
It's like we're not just victims of circumstance. We have agency, choices, and the power to create a life that feels authentic and meaningful.
That's a message worth celebrating.
It is.
Even though the world can feel chaotic and overwhelming, we each have the capacity to make a difference, be a force for good, and live in a way that honors both our individuality and interconnectedness.
Well said. Deep divers, we've reached the end of our journey exploring surrender and integrity.
We have.
I hope this deep dive has left you feeling inspired, empowered,
yes,
and perhaps even a little more comfortable with the messiness of it all.
The messiness is part of life.
We've explored a lot, but the conversation doesn't have to end here.
It doesn't.
We'd love to hear your reflections, insights, and questions.
We would love to hear from you.
Remember, dear listeners, there's no one right way to navigate this dilemma.
Right.
It's a lifelong journey of discovery.
Yes.
And the most important thing is to keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep evolving.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep diving deep.
Keep diving.